Episode 2, The Midnight Investigation. The next evening, Rika finished work early and headed back to that antique shop. She couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The experience of hearing the doll speak felt too real to dismiss as mere coincidence or a dream. She hoped there might be a clue and decided to ask the shopkeeper again. When she entered the shop, it was just as dim and dusty as before, but no one was behind the counter. Rika called out, "Excuse me," but there was no response. She looked around the shop and heard a faint rustling sound coming from the back. Thinking the shopkeeper might be working, Rika followed the noise. She walked down a narrow hallway cluttered with various antiques, where she found the shopkeeper at a small workbench. "Excuse me." The shopkeeper seemed startled by Rika's voice and turned around, looking a bit tense. "Ah, you've come again. Is there a problem?" Hesitantly, Rika began to explain what happened the night before. "Actually, last night, I heard the doll, it was speaking to me. It was saying something like it wanted me to find something." The shopkeeper furrowed his brow and remained silent. Rika felt uneasy about the silence and continued, "If there's something wrong with this doll, please tell me. I feel like it's trying to tell me something important." The shopkeeper sighed and spoke in a heavy tone. "Actually, that doll has a strange past. Many decades ago, it belonged to the daughter of a wealthy family. Unfortunately, that daughter disappeared under mysterious circumstances. After that, only the doll was left behind. Since then, everyone associated with that family met with tragedy, and eventually, even the house fell into ruin." Rika shuddered at the story. She couldn't believe the doll she had taken home had such a dark history. But she still felt a strong need to understand why the doll seemed to be calling out to her. "Do you know the girl's name? If I could find out more, it might help." The shopkeeper thought for a moment, then pulled out an old notebook from the shelf, flipping through its pages. "I believe her name was Elena. It's recorded that she went missing when she was 8 years old." "Elena," Rika repeated the name, thinking of the doll. The voice of that young girl echoed in her ears. "I need to find out what Elena wants." The shopkeeper still looked uneasy as he listened to Rika's determination. "Be careful. Those who've been involved with this doll have all come to regret it. Please proceed with caution." Rika thanked the shopkeeper and returned home. Once there, she stared at the doll on her living room shelf. The figure in the blue dress looked as serene as ever, with the same faint smile, but its eyes seemed to hold a deeper meaning now, as if it were silently pleading for something. "Elena, what is it you want?" That night, Rika sat in front of the doll, attempting to speak to it. But there was no answer. Only her voice echoed through the stillness of the room. After a while, she gave up and went to bed. Later that night, after 2 a.m., Rika woke up in the darkness of her bedroom. From the direction of the living room, she could hear faint sounds. It was as if someone were walking or furniture was being moved. Her heart pounded as she nervously got out of bed and headed for the living room. She turned on the light, but no one was there. However, the doll's position had changed. It was no longer on the shelf where she had left it. Instead, it was now sitting on the table. Rika's heart raced, and she couldn't stop her hands from trembling. What is this, so?" As Rika approached, the doll's blue eyes seemed to meet her gaze once more. At that moment, she heard the soft whisper again, right next to her ear. "Find me." Drawn by the voice, Rika picked up the doll. The moment she did, her vision blurred for a second, and a vivid image flooded her mind. She saw an old mansion deep within a forest, its walls covered in moss, the place eerily still as if frozen in time. Rika couldn't understand what the image meant, but it felt familiar. She remembered visiting such a place as a child, going there with her parents. But was it really her memory? Or was it just a strange illusion? "Elena, are you in that place?" Rika asked the doll, but no answer came. Only the doll's deep, unblinking eyes seemed to pull her in. That night, Rika struggled to sleep, her thoughts constantly returning to the doll and the strange vision. The next day after work, Rika didn't head home. Instead, she drove straight to the location from her memory. She was certain the mansion was down a narrow road on the outskirts of town. Yet, something inside her made her hesitate. She didn't know what awaited her where Elena's voice was leading, but she couldn't turn back now.